And then we look at the people and say, why are you all so lazy, refusing to do? But then we realize that it's a bricklayer kind of situation whereby I don't even know why I'm laying this brick. And it's boring, it's tiring. Why do I even do it?
And the leader's voice is only like 10%. The rest of the team members equal airtime and all that. Then it's an indicator, a proxy to say that the team has got fairly high psychological safety.
Welcome back to another episode of White and Shine. I'm your host, Dawn SG Budget Babe, and I have my new / old co-host.
Yes. I'm here for many episodes. Alex better come back. All right, yes, but I'm very happy to be here with all of you back on White and Shine. I'm your host, Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut.
And Reggie has proposed a really interesting topic for today, which I think many of you will be very keen on.
It's
and
true.
This episode is titled Leadership Lessons from the Military. Strategies for success in any field. Any field, really?
Let me give some context, okay? I actually heard this from Brandon's podcast. So Brandon from WSG, he has a side passion thing that he do called Purple Light. Right, so I quite a fan. Shout out to his podcast. Please listen. There's a lot of interesting stories inside. So when I was listening, I was like, oh, this is very interesting, right? Because the guest, which is who we have on set today, was a top trainer in the military, right? In that sense, part of the L&D department of the military. And then they came out and do their own thing, right? But then in my head, it's all like, wow, military guy can teach me what, say?
I'm sure they get that a lot from clients as well. So we're going to break it down today. But over to our guests, we'll let them introduce themselves.
Very interesting the way you introduced us, and that was quite a sure way to cue off the session by saying, we're going to teach you and tell you things from the military, and then half the people will just shut down. But we hope that you will turn out differently. So my name is Choon. Indeed, I spent more than 30 years in the military. I was with the commando. So live pretty pretty crazy life. Do things that are pretty interesting. But of course, since then we have left and set up the L&D Leadership and Organization Development Consultancy, Genium and Co. So right now, this is what we're doing, and be hoping to share anything useful to our audience.
Yeah, for sure. Fred, yes.
Hello, I'm Fred Tan, Managing Director of and Co-founder of Genium and Co. Past life, 28 years in the Armed Forces. Career highlights like peacekeeping in East Timor. Went to UN HQ, deployed as a command, and then I was also in Aceh as a team leader. My last job was head of Center for Leadership Development. We look at systematically developing junior, middle to senior leaders. So that's where the passion, and we see the fulfillment of training leaders. And from there, when it's time to end the military service, it's like, hey, why don't I do something similar to this? Bring across practical leadership knowledge to the corporate world. And we have been on it 6 years through COVID.
Yeah. Fred turned a slight turn, saying like a lot of leadership not practical. It's all the idea read from the book one. We tell you this is how it works.
Practical, that's right.
Yeah. But how was the early experience coming out of this? And then people should say like your military guys can teach me what, right?
The stereotyping still remains, but I think once you go into say by first day lunch break, they'll be starting to get, hey, there are some things that these two guys ex-military can teach us. Some practical tips, right? We are not just looking at theory, but to us, we have lived through some of these experiences. So we say, well, if you work for us, then we just contextualize it for the corporate world. And then thus far, things have been moving. Referral have been coming. Once the words gets out, then probably more people will come to us.
So I'm very curious, what is the difference? Because there are a lot of companies and consultancies who do leadership training for corporate. What is the difference between learning from an ex-military leader versus anyone else out there? Non-military.
I love how there's a line, the line very big.
Military versus non-military.
Okay. Because I must also quantify. You look at those civilian leaders, a lot of them hold critical NS positions in because of our conscript National Service Force. Therefore, I can also safely say part of their leadership style is also transferred from military. Because of Singapore's unique context, right? But then because of our background, 20, 30 years, 28 years in the armed forces, so we think through and then we say, okay, there are particular traits that we definitely, ex-military, definitely we can bring across to the corporate world. Okay, things like leadership. We spend a lot of time not only just accomplishing the mission, we spend a lot of time inculcating this thing called caring for our people.
Care for soldier.
Okay,
you probably don't know.
It's one of our core values, right? Reggie,
drink
don't
water
laugh.
every day also must say.
Yeah. So it means that you have sort of semi-internalized the core values, right? Until after so many years, you can still
Repetition,
remember.
right?
Okay.
Okay.
Or brainwash.
Yeah.
Now, I quite internalized. Lah. So the mission focus and also care for our people is important.
Yeah, in some sense, it's not always naturally associated with leadership. A lot of people associate leadership with just delivering, squeezing people for result. So this care for people, where does it come from? How does it help my bottom line, right?
And that's the corporate world, right? That you're participating in, right? Yeah.
But there are other things that because we have experienced strong team culture. Once you experience a very strong team culture, you know what it looks like. How then you can build a strong team out there. Organization skills. Every year you see the National Day Parade. Of course, whole government, but the organizing committee is really anchoring on the MINDEF SAF folks. So I think these are some of the skills that we bring across to the corporate world.
Well, it would be useful to say that military or not military, theory or not. I don't think we have ever said that anything military is better. Does it work? So you can dispel the military leadership, but what do you have that's working better? And then we'd like to learn from you. But for us, really is about what really works as a leader, leading teams, what will get people wanting to come to work and do what you want them to do together with you, right? So it doesn't matter whether it's military or not. What works, what doesn't. And sometimes, of course, it's contextual. Certain things that work very well in the military may not work very well in the corporate world and vice versa. But I think one good habit is to not be overly sweeping and say, this military doesn't work. Let's see what is there that might help me.
That's why we are here. Yeah. And Brandon always say planning is our 探家. His whole podcast, I keep hearing that, right? So planning aside, right? Today we want to spend more time on the team building, that whole middle manager is really our core audience. And our listeners are mostly in that middle management. So a lot of them have all these struggles, right? What is considered a strong team culture? How do I get people excited to come to work every day? Which sounds like crazy, right? Like it's like, how do you do all that, right? So maybe you can kind of shed some wisdom for us.
Okay, so I will start from, this is real research. Google has done the research, they call it Project Aristotle. So they, Google being Google, they've gone through a lot of data and then they look at the best teams that they have and they ask what are the factors to support a strong and effective team. So they came out with about 5 factors. First factor was psychological safety. How do you build a team that is safe enough for people to speak up regardless of their rank? For young people, senior people, doesn't matter. Able to speak up and tell the leader, say, I think this is not right, this is how I feel. So that sense of psychological safety. Then you have clear roles and responsibility, clear accountability, the impact of the work. Do you find your work impactful for yourself? And then also your work, is it impactful to the society? So those are the few factors that if you can, as a leader, right? First you build. And the biggest factor, actually, psychological safety is actually way far ahead of the other 4 factors. So if you are a leader, you can consider, how do I build psychological safety? When you have meetings, then you ask any questions. If everybody look down and then nobody dares to say anything, that's a signal to say maybe the safety level is not as high. Nobody dares to speak up. Even for us, when we do training, when we first ask, right, question, everybody is a bit scared and all that. Then you realize, then we got to do some recovery here to say, how do we build that psychological safety?
But I don't associate the military with psychological safety.
And it's fully understandable. It's fully understandable. But you can see that even us as military leader, we learn what work and what don't. And of course, there are contexts, right? To put it to one extreme, in the military field, there is a certain reason why leadership is done in a certain way. I always use a simple example. When the bullet is flying, you don't open the table and discuss, what do we do?
It's true.
Because it's going to get us all killed. So there's a reason why military leader behave in a certain way. But we, as good leader, we ought to recognize that not every situation are like those bullets are flying. So there are other situations where they are not like that, where psychological safety is very, very powerful. It's going to make the team a lot better. On your question about what makes a strong team culture and things like, and even for that matter, the leadership, I usually will start asking this question. If like 4 of us are in the team, why do I even bother to come together as a team? You have to give me this answer. Why do I team with you? What do I get out of it? Similarly, as a leader, I will ask, right, why would this team that I'm leading want to be working with me under my leadership? If working with me make their life worse, make them achieve less, make them miserable, and if they have a choice and a chance at all, they will run. So in that kind of team, you're not going to get someone who is fully committed, going all out to achieve what you want. So we have to ask this question about motivation. What makes a person wanting to be in your team? What makes the person wanting to be under your leadership? And if we cannot answer those questions, I think good luck to us.
Yeah. Fair. That's why clear mission is important, right? Like that kind of clarity of like, what are we here for? What are we doing? So half the time I feel like I'm just repeating the mission. Keep telling the people, this is what we are trying to do, this is what we're trying to do. Because as you kind of do the grunt, sometimes you forget, right? Why am I calling so many people? Why am I assigning so many things? But I think as the leader, there's a big part of repeating the mission. Why are we here?
I will expand on that.
Yes.
Not only just focusing on the mission, you need to actually connect the mundane tasks that they are doing to what is that mission. So you do the connection. So a story, right? A story goes, person walked down the street, he saw 3 bricklayers. First one asked, what are you doing? Oh, I'm laying bricks. Then the second one, oh, I'm building a wall. Then the third one says, oh, actually I'm building the left side wall of the church because when it's completed, this part will be, right, bring peace and serenity to the people who comes to pray. So actually you look at how they are all doing the same task, but the third person actually has that connection because who? The leader connects what they are doing to the larger mission. So it's important, right? Because we don't take it as, it's a given one, straight away you can see. It's so obvious.
Yeah, that's
what is
how leaders
obvious
sometimes
to
they
us,
talk.
what is obvious to us may not be obvious to our team members. So you need to actually make the effort to communicate and then connect so that they know, okay, this one boring as it is, but there is an impact to the larger picture. That's how they stay committed.
Yeah.
And in a team where you're all working on the same big objective, but everyone has different roles. So then to what extent does the leader communicate and align that mundane task per person or department versus just broadly speaking?
Before you go there, right, I just want to echo to say that, yeah, actually as a leader, a lot of time we always complain, why you don't know, why you don't get it, right? But and I think it's valid. It's valid to complain, but amongst the leaders. And then once you are done, right, take a deep breath, you go back, you still got to get the shit done. Right? You still got to convey like, okay, so what is your role? How do you kind of lead to that, right? So and there's no like one method to this. I feel it's a bit like a dirty process that you just kind of align because you got to speak to the individual. But what do you all think?
It's useful for us to know that what is crystal clear to us might not be that clear to other people. So it's always useful to read back, to verify, to communicate, even convince or influence sometimes. So we have a lot of thought going go through our mind. We may have exposure to many information that the people that we are leading may not have. And we come back making a decision thinking that it's crystal clear, it's obvious, and then we look at the people and say, why are you all so lazy, refusing to do? But then we realize that it's a bricklayer kind of situation whereby I don't even know why I'm laying this brick. And it's boring, it's tiring, why do I even do it? So there's this larger picture, larger purpose that could give me that motivation. But not only that, that larger picture that we sometimes as a leader are so mighty motivated about might not be something that motivates the other person. We all to pay attention to that. So having a larger picture and asking the question, so why does it matter to me? As in, we ask the question on their behalf, that why does it matter to me? So I have to give this person a reason why he or she should put in the extra effort, should even in a military term die for the country. That's the ultimate sacrifice. Why should I? Right? So in ours, we are giving them a reason beyond the next paycheck, beyond the next small little gain or material gain. Give me something bigger. Giving something that's useful for me.
Yeah, no, and I find myself selling the same dream to different people in different ways.
Exactly.
Yeah, this one can change the world. This one is fun. This one got learning. This one can make big money. But it's the same thing. But because you're kind of digging into their individual goals, right? Then you align their goals to the bigger mission.
Right. So it may have to be done one-on-one or team by team rather than
one-to-one.
That's why at the middle managers level, I think one-to-one engagement is important. As busy as you are, I always share that you need to have lunch. Definitely over lunch, you can have an appointment, do one-to-one. It don't have to be a formal setting or 1 hour, sit down, then you actually got no time. But you still need to have lunch, you still want to have a tea break. So schedule those with your team members, do your one-to-one there.
So ladies and gentlemen, I will advocate, listen to Reggie.
Thank you. I got approved.
Different stroke for different folk.
It's true.
Don't assume what excites you will excite other people. But I hope what excites me will excite you. And I hope to find as many of those common ones as possible because we couldn't be dealing with 1,000 people with 1,000 different strokes. But don't assume that one answer fits everybody. We ought to not be lazy as the leader. We ought to try to find out, create as many of those conditions as possible where people are really, really excited about the job beyond the next paycheck.
It's true. And I really hate it when leaders say, I already say already.
Yeah, it's obvious.
You say, okay, you say, but the person never hear. You never say, right? You know what I mean? Because your goal is to get people there. You're trying to move people down, but you you can say 10 times the same thing. It does not work.
Yeah, for that matter, I hear you, sir. I hear you, but it didn't really give me excited. And one of those will be the voice in their head that will never tell you is that, yeah, sir, I think you're excited because it's gonna get you promoted. But it doesn't. Yeah, but it doesn't matter to me.
Fair. Can you expand a little bit on the psychology safety side of things? Psychological safety. You said it in the...
So in a way, through the research, right, they term it psychological safety. This term actually was not new. It's made famous by Harvard professor Amy Edmondson. So she came up with this phrase to say that if people in the team are safe enough to feel that whatever they say, there's no repercussion, there's no retribution and all that, then the team will be very strong. Even for meetings, you have an equal airtime. Usually meeting, the leader will speak a lot, 80% of the time, right? Maybe 90% left, 10% any other inputs. So the research has shown that if you're meeting with whole team and the leader's voice is only like 10%, the rest of the team members equal airtime and all that, then it's an indicator, a proxy to say that the team has got fairly high psychological safety. Psychological safety is we're also not looking at just being nice to everyone. When you're being nice, there's also must be accountability. Okay, so means to say, Reggie, if you're not performing, as a peer, I can tell you, hey brother, you need to buck up, correct? Right? This doesn't look good for everyone. So you need to have the peer level able to raise it up, as opposed to waiting for the leader to come and scold us. So sometimes at the peer level, if you have that strong ability, then your friend will be like, are you my friend? Why you don't take care of me? How come you blame me? So those kind of things, once we take away to say, hey, this is focus on the work, nothing personal, right? Just focus on the work. You are not pulling your socks, so please do and buck up and all that. So when you have that kind of safe environment, then the team will be very strong.
Okay, so how do I develop this safety?
Yeah, so this is about safety to take interpersonal risks. If I may expand a little bit more on this, what do you mean by interpersonal risk? Interpersonal risk could be as simple as when I want to disagree with you, I may not feel safe to do so because I may become unpopular. Or if I want to give you a suggestion, I may hold back because I may be deemed to be busybody. So would I feel safe enough to do all this contribution? Because now remember we are talking in the context of team effectiveness. If everybody hide what you are really truly thinking and only say the superficial thing, collectively we obviously didn't become wiser. We cannot make better decisions together. We cannot check each other blind spot. We potentially may just all try to be nice to each other, or for that matter, subordinate to boss relationship. I potentially are just trying to keep myself safe or not saying anything wrong so that I don't get myself into trouble. And under that kind of situation, obviously you're not going to get a team where it's able to be very candid, where when they disagree, robustly debate issue, point out fault, talk about things that didn't work. So we want that candidness, and how you want to achieve that, you think maybe it's useful to think in terms of, remember we talk about safety, about taking risks, interpersonal risks. Then you want to think in terms of consequence. When I behave in that way that you said about wanting me to behave in that particular manner so that there's psychological safety, what is the consequence? Is it a positive or negative one? For example, if you were my boss and you said, you make a decision and I have enough safety to walk up to you and say, boss, I think we might want to rethink this decision as polite as I can. And it's already damn scary, right? You are my boss and I'm disagreeing with you and asking myself into trouble, right? But do I have that courage to walk up to you and say, Don, I think we might want to rethink this decision? Then looking from the perspective of consequence, how do you make it possible for me to want to do it the second time and the third time, because the consequence is a positive one? Let's just use this example.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying Wise and Shine so far. I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut, and for us to continue to do this show so that you become a tad bit wiser every week, you gotta like, share, subscribe, help us beat the algorithm. But even more importantly, if you can, comment in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts and also some questions that you would love us to answer. Yep, now back to the show.
But having said that also, sometimes it also boils down to the individual, right? Like there are some people who are more open.
It always boils down to the individual.
Yeah.
I feel like as a middle manager, it always boils down to the
individual.
individual.
So you could create that psychological safety in your team, you try your best and you reassure people that don't have. But there will always be some people where I don't know whether I can trust lah. Maybe I'm anonymous.
Exactly.
Or like later they judge me. They think that I'm,
Exactly.
Yeah, so how?
Judgment. And it's a lot. Some of them are actually preconceived by themselves. So as a leader, it will
They
be
project
very,
on me as a leader,
yes,
you know.
as a leader, for any of us who want to be in a leadership position, will be very, very useful to remind ourselves that psychological safety is normally missing. In other words, we have to do something about it. We have to constantly work at it. I have it yesterday doesn't mean I have it today. I have it this morning doesn't mean I have it now. Right? The more we make the condition possible, the more we're going to get. But it's never going to be absolute. No one is going to be silly enough to go and tell the boss 100% thing that you're thinking in your brain that is really unpopular to say. But you want them to be able to say as much or slow as possible. Never 100%, but as much as possible. How do you make it possible for me?
Would the solution then to have an anonymous whistleblowing hotline?
That is one. But
once you have anonymous means that there's not enough safety.
It depends on the stage. When we eventually get there, we hope that we don't even need this anonymity. Eventually. Remember I said the word eventually. But assuming now you start with an organization, you suddenly took over and the psychological safety is really, really bad. You might have to start with that. But with the intent to one day get to the point that you don't need that anymore, that I can tell you that it is me that make that point. My name, my contact number, please clarify with me if you don't agree. We want to get to the stage that's true psychological safety. Now, so back to the example I shared with Don, I kind of think that we may have to rethink our decision. And you were the boss. How do you make this consequence a positive one so that the next time when I disagree with you, I dare to say it? And I didn't mean to say that Don must say that, okay, nice that you tell me, so I'm now going to change my decision based on what you're saying. No. The boss might still disagree with this suggestion, but the boss could say, thank you very much for even wanting to bring it up. Thank you very much for having the courage to disagree with me. But however, I have thought through this, and we can have a discussion, but I have thought through this. The reason why I decided in this way was that. So I actually make the consequence a positive one, as in, you felt that you've been thanked. You felt that I appreciate you being candid, even though I eventually did disagree with you. Now, that's different from being, I want to be popular. Oh, Reggie, since you did this suggestion, let me change my decision. Because I'm always open-minded. Then you are like, direction.
No.
Right?
I agree. And to me, I always tell all leaders, right, you must be able to encourage your people to talk, but you don't need to listen to everyone. It's two different things. You encourage everybody to talk so that they will share their deepest thoughts and ideas and all that safety, right? But because you are making the final decision, you must be able to weigh everybody's,
So you hear their feedback, but you may not necessarily act on it.
So you must weigh accordingly.
I think based on hearing what you all have said, actually reminds me of something that I have experienced in the workplace, which is that some of the best leaders I know, they over-communicate. In the sense that when employees speak up, sometimes they do one-on-one, sometimes they address in front of the team, they say so-and-so brought up this point. It's a really good concern, and then they will explain from that perspective, plus their own on top of why despite this, they're still going ahead with this. I always think that kind of over-communication is great because we often only see one piece of the puzzle, but the leaders see everything.
Right. So it's good for the leader also to be willing to open up to say his thought. Because if you are the one that's always hiding and say, you tell me the truth, what you're thinking, but I won't tell you what I'm thinking, it won't work also. To modify a little bit of what Reggie was sharing, that you give everybody a chance to talk, but you don't need to listen to everybody. Let's modify that a little bit. Actually, you want to listen to everybody, but you are not swayed by everything you hear.
Oh, yes. So that's semantics, but I understand what you're saying.
Right.
Yes.
So you get the contribution, you weigh the pros and cons, you hear everybody, and you make your best decision. The decision might not be popular, but you gave this impression that indeed I'm listening to you.
It's true.
If it's a good suggestion, I'll take it. If it's a good suggestion, but I couldn't take it, I'll explain to you why I'm not taking it. So that you bother to speak up. If I tell you 3 times, no, this is what my suggestion is, it's like, oh yeah, please speak. And then I say, okay, then let's move on.
Never acknowledge.
I don't even care what you're saying. I'm just allowing you to speak. That wouldn't help at all. In fact, that will backfire.
I want to probe this part where, everybody says some of these ideas, right? Like you got to listen, make people feel safe, blah, 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 right? But as the middle manager, how do I kind of tune my signal sets, Because everybody is different, right? So when they come to me, they can say the same thing, with different energy. And I got to kind of factor that information, into my system when I try to understand what is this person saying, right? So how do I manage myself, while trying to right-size the information that's coming in? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, this is very difficult, I feel it's a higher level side of things because the blanket is, we already say already, right? Then we move a bit deeper. We try to, okay, individualize some of this information. But now I factor the leader's receiving side of trying to receive the information. How do I tune this whole thing? You know what I'm saying?
First thing, as a leader, when you hear people talking and all that, don't judge. Once you judge,
very hard,
I know, and it's very, very difficult. That's why I say it's very
that's
difficult.
why I had to ask this question.
If it's easy, everybody will be good
So-
leader.
so
It's
first
hard,
thing-
but it can be done.
That's
so-
a great quote.
So first thing, don't judge. You want to assume positive intent. Okay, the way you are saying this is, okay, I give you the benefit of doubt. Of course, if this person always raise things just for his or her own self-interest, then all bets are off. I start to observe there's a certain
so I
trend.
will tame the thing, right?
So,
Yes.
but as far as possible, if it's a new comment and all that, stay neutral, assume positive. And you can even probe further. Why do you say like that? Why do you give suggestion like this? Is this better for the team? Alright, so my litmus test is always when you put in this new input and all that, is it to strengthen the plan? Is it for the team or is it for yourself? That's my other left-hand column that I'm thinking. But I will first ask, is this for the team? If it is for the team, even for if the plan is what I have formulated, and then you say, boss, maybe I can do this better in a new way and all that, I'm fine, because you are putting in with the site safety, you're able to then put in new points to strengthen our plan. So I think that's all fair and square. But if you start to raise issue to maybe inch up your own, put the spotlight on yourself to try to score point and all that, to me, then I will slowly counsel you say, maybe that's not the way we should view the thing. All right? I noticed there's another feedback session, there's a technique and all. I noticed that you have been bringing issues and a lot of this tend to put yourself in a better advantage. I think that is not quite positive. As a team, I want you to be a team player. I still welcome your input, but I think your input should have a positive impact on our plan. Less so, I downplay our own self-interest, but upplay the what is for the team. Focus on their contribution for the team.
But if I can push a bit more, right? In some ways, that is an ambitious individual, right? In some ways, right? The person is ambitious. They want to go further. Rather than just blanket statement that, we want to downplay the individual, make everybody a team player, right? Like, how can I kind of harness that energy? You know what I mean? Harness the ambitious energy of the individual, right? To further, push the team forward.
Spin off on that point, actually, it's very useful to understand that we get together as a team for a reason. We don't want to get together as a team and end up in the lowest denominator. So you're harnessing everybody's strength, complement each other, and together the sum is bigger than the total of the individual part. So this is what we're trying to achieve. Now, on the point on tuning the antenna listening, my view is, first and foremost, it must be really from the heart. Are you seriously trying to listen? Or you just heard a lecture from someone and say, psychological safety, let's listen, and then, okay, I'm listening. But you are really not listening. So if you are seriously listening and you don't judge, then you give yourself a chance to say that maybe I have been very fixated about this particular idea. I love my idea so much. It worked for me for 10 years. But this guy is telling me something that is, although it's contrary to my belief, but I have something to learn from here. If you really, really deeply listen because you're serious about listening, then you are a lot better tuned to be able to get this contribution from the person to also benefit from it. But we didn't mean to say that in all condition, I invite you to speak and then you go on and on for 2 hours, but actually I only have 1 hour for a meeting and I have 10 good important decisions to make. I let you go on and on. So that's about facilitation. I may have to calibrate you, but I will do it in such a way that I don't kill off your interest, and the next time you have something to contribute, you just shut up, because the last time I spoke up, my boss just shut me out. I want to encourage you to speak, but I want to sometimes I do have to say that, well, let's hear from the other people, so that you won't have a meeting of 10 people but nominated by a person, although he has got good idea, right? So we facilitate, but the first thing first is I'm really serious about, I want to hear from you. It's not lip service. Now, but if I have time to hear you for half an hour, I would love to. But if I have time to only hear for 30 seconds, I will promise you to say that I do have 30 seconds to hear, but I really want to hear from you. But bottom line is, I am serious that I want to hear from you.
Okay, fair. And I think in the other podcast that you did, right, you were talking about how the middle manager, right, have it very hard, because you got to manage the people, you got to manage your life, you got to manage everything, right? And then your body start to frail. I mean, we're in our 30s. I can start to feel it.
30s, huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
Cannot, like last time, don't need to stretch one, just go only, right? Like that's why last time in school or in camp, right, people say, stretch, I learn, waste time. Now don't stretch, cannot even start, right? So the body starts to frail.
He will say no, he will conquer Mount Everest.
Of course, right, yeah. But and then the responsibility balloons on all front, at home, at work. If you want to be a leader, you take on that whole front, right? How do you manage that thing? Like, yeah, some quick tips on that front. I know it's not easy to do quick tips on something like that.
I think the key thing is, find some quiet time to always reflect. What are your anchors? By anchors, I mean, what are your core values? What resonate with you, core values?
You see the SAF coming out, right? So,
No, wait.
Yeah.
The one is SCF core value, organization core is different.
Yeah.
Reggie, yourself, your personal core value, I think it's important. Your life purpose. We're here for 70, 80 years, if you're lucky, 90, right? Given that short span of time, what do you want to achieve? What do you think will be your purpose in life? And in 3 to 5 years' time, what are your vision? Those three, I think, important for you to reflect, have a really clarity of these 3 sets of anchors so that when you are in a crunch, when you have to make decisions, right? I have 4 kids. So the challenge sometimes is come May, come November, you have parent-teacher meeting. And then you just line up the number of sessions you got to go, or you have also kids concert, recital, all this. You got to decide, I got a meeting here, I got kids recital. How do you decide, right? So if your anchors are very strong, if family is one of your personal core value, then I'll say, okay, never mind, I'll send someone to go for my meeting, I will go for my kids recital. Right? So it will then easier for you to make decisions that way, once your anchors are strong. But if you don't have that specific time to think about what are your anchors, then you'll be everywhere.
and in the 30s, it's kind of that situation, right? Because you get
correct.
pushed into the role. What's
Okay,
going on?
so I must say, 2 of us gone through a program like this in our early 40s, right? So it was quite late, I must say. So in our program now, in the early 20s, in the undergraduate program, we actually go through a program to get them to think about it, right? It may not be firm up yet, but at least you start thinking. Over time, it will evolve definitely, right? But I think at least you get to start thinking and say, okay, at the start of your working life, what would you want to do? What do you want to achieve? What are your key parameters? What are your life purpose? And also, those are important anchors. Because when come to the crunch, when you need to make difficult decision, your personal core values will be the one that will guide you.
Fair. Crunch.
Yes,
that
I wanted
question,
to ask, because both of you have experience in high stakes, high risk environment, right? You've conquered Everest, you have led crisis teams in Timor-Leste. What would you all say are transferable skills from that experience that one can bring into the workplace as a corporate leader? Yeah, during crunch time, crisis time, you want to let people speak up, but no time.
Yeah, it's quite often.
Yeah, that does happen quite often.
A lot. Well, just now when Fred mentioned 4 kids, I saw Reggie's eye widen. The pupils dilate. Obviously, he already concluded that that's harder than climbing Everest.
I concluded it's like Everest, if you're alone, okay,
How do you
just
even
practice.
survive that? Yeah, but let's just use extreme adventure sports as an example, and a lot of the risky military thing that we do. First, have a healthy dose of respect for the environment out there. Don't think you're the almighty. Okay, have a healthy dose of respect. Know that there are risks. Think about it. Be prepared for it. Then you have a much better chance to succeed. In adventure sport, we know this. If you don't prepare, you just get out there, you're probably gonna get yourself killed. But even if you prepare everything you can, there could be things that you have never anticipated, and that's where you react and you try to keep yourself alive, right? And then if we have put in our best effort, no regret. If you want to be safe from all this unforeseen danger, stay in the aircon room, don't go anywhere.
Like us, we in the aircon room.
So the healthy dose of respect and be prepared. But also very importantly, why are you doing this for? Right? So some of the things that we are doing, they're highly risky in the military. We're not purely having fun. No? There's a larger purpose of why we're doing it, why we bother to take a risk, why we even potentially may sacrifice our life for it. There has to be a bigger reason. So hopefully we can anchor those reasons, not just for ourselves, but the team that we led. For them to see it, to believe in it. So have that larger reason. And then when the larger reason is clear, then those reasons will include also how you see the world as a character, right? Your core value. So when it comes crunch time that you need to make difficult decisions, it becomes easier.
So it sounds like what you all have just said is imperative that they lay the groundwork first before the crisis happens, so that the crisis will be easier to get through.
You lay your groundwork, but even that, nobody guarantee you that you have already thought through everything.
No lah, no 包jiao ah. Right,
Because you cannot 包jiao doesn't mean you therefore give yourself the excuse that in that case, since I can never predict everything, let's just not do anything. Sorry, then you just lower your chance of surviving.
So in a way, if you are, say, running operations, right, organizing events and all that, a part of it is you must be having, there must be a plan. Okay, start planning our base plan. This is our normal plan. Then once you have the base plan, then you start to ask your team, what could go wrong? Then you got plan B, plan C, plan D. So you have then some contingency. In case plan B happens, what we will do? Once you have that, at least you're fairly covered. And then you go into that exercise mode. can we run through a rehearsal? Then you have maybe certain things will pop up and say, hey, this one we never addressed. Maybe we can have a plan E to address that.
That's an NDP plan.
Yeah. That is how you prepare for crisis beforehand, because when crisis hit, right, and you're not prepared, you're not gone through some of the standard operating procedures and all that, you'll be in trouble. So it's how we work it into the system. Of course, it takes time. You must have that discipline, the system discipline to go through, get everybody together. And that's why on the actual day, 9th of August, it's like clockwork.
Yeah.
Okay, I organized some parts of some years I was doing safety coverage and all that. Up to a certain, until the actual day, I close my eyes, I know how many seconds later this thing will happen, that thing will happen. Until that, you're so familiar with the base plan. But of course, we also have a plan B, plan C. That's how you actually work things through.
So we both teach crisis leadership and resilience. What we are sharing with you are not theory from a book. It's really something that we study. We think it works.
This one is very strong. It's not theory from a book.
Some of those theory are from the book, but we verify it with real life experience.
Complement
to make sure we know what we're talking
And
about.
proven every year on 9 August.
Yeah. So those scenario planning, thinking through, even you have plan N. The plan N may not be enough because something else may pop out that you never anticipated. But because you have gone through all the thinking, the planning, the plan N, you are in a much better place in terms of having to deal with this totally unforeseen versus situation where you didn't even bother because you think that you're not going to be able to get all the answers and forget it. And you don't even think about it. When that nasty thing happens, you are probably a lot less prepared. So it doesn't mean that you have planned a lot of contingency plan. There will be one that can pull out from the pocket. But the process of doing that planning, the process of even thinking about it will get you a lot more ready to deal with this unforeseen danger that just pop up.
And
I don't think it's dichotomous anyway. Yeah, I don't think people think like that. But yes, you're saying?
Yeah, but also I love how they highlighted that you could ask your teammates, your people on what could go wrong. Then in that way, that's also enhancing the psychological safety while also acknowledging that the leader may not foresee everything.
Yes, because in that circumstance when thing happens, it's not just you, it's a team. And sometimes if you trip over each other, you actually get each other killed.
It's true. It's true.
So you actually talk about it and we coordinate. In other words, we're coordinating ourselves to be a better team to deal with unforeseen circumstances, with crisis, right?
Because in the process, you start to have buy-in. When you have buy-in, the ownership of the plan, not the leader's plan, of the team's plan goes up. That's right. Right. So we're all vested into this, making the mission a success. Right. So when you start to ask, again, psychological safety come in, I allow inputs from the rest. And once the leader comes out with the base plan and the rest all keep quiet, then you know actually there's no psychological safety. But when people start to actually boss this one, this angle, that angle, once you all put together and it's become a more holistic plan, then you know there is actually a stronger dynamics and then ownership will come in.
Fair.
Love it.
Maybe in closing, since they talk about practical, right? What are some things that you think is populated out there but does not work? Tak jadi. Yeah. You're in the business, right? I'm sure you've seen many people that say many different things around leadership and development. And some things you look at it, it's like
one idea you look at critically.
Right? Like, does this work? Right? Yeah.
I used to work with a leader who tells me, Fred, information is power. So we only give information to certain people. Information is key. Need to know basis. So he will partition the information to, okay, for Reggie, this is the information you give. For Don, this is information. And then they try not to allow you all to cross-share ideas, trying to make sure that the interest is protected somehow. Right? Make it very secretive and all that. Although that may be true for maybe intelligence formation or the secretive we cannot talk about.
The intrigue people.
But in a team, right, to me, sharing of information, especially when at the working level, is important. In order to know, in case, Don, if you are sick, Reggie, you can cover. Right? I cannot be keeping just on a need-to-know basis. So I find that kind of advice, I think, is not very wise. Of course, salary information, all this, we keep it stuff in confidence. I think is important. But the rest of how the team and this person, the plan for this person working, I think there must be a way to share and allow a bit more open book. I think that is important. Then we can cover each other. I think it's important that way to make a team stronger.
Okay, fair.
Usually I will hesitate to give you exact example of what absolutely will not work because really everything is contextual. But there are some very common ones. For example, we have seen leaders who believe in, I can squeeze you, whack you, give you a hard time as long as at the end of the day I give you a beautiful bonus. Does it work? Yes, to a certain extent, but only a very limited extent. When the day come when I have somewhere else I can earn even half that amount, but it makes me feel so much better, I might go. But at that moment, I need that pay. I cannot offend you. It does work. So in our teaching, we remind leader that this idea of carrot and stick, does it work? The answer is yes, but to a very limited extent. There will be a place under the sun for carrot and stick, but don't use it. Use it sparingly. You want to look at the higher level of motivation that you can get from the person. Answer this question. What makes the guy get up in the morning, rushing, wanting to go to work and do what you want them to do, without you even whipping them? If you can answer that question, I think you are in a much better place.
Okay, I give you one more.
Okay.
Higher achiever.
Higher
beyond
achiever,
the minimum. The notion of heroic leader. Gone are the days in the 80s, in the 70s, you can be the champion leader up front because you have knowledge, you have the power. There's no internet, so whatever you say is the truth. Now, I think the heroic leader, the leadership style is increasingly diminishing because environment is changing so fast. The leader does not have all the answer. So you need to have the humility to say, I may not have all the answer. I have some experience. Let me bring this to the table and the rest can all chip in and we can work together out, co-create something. So the heroic leader, the notion I think increasingly is not as, we always respect the leader for the vision and all that, but with environment changing so fast, maybe you can still have a vision, but then to bring the team together, you need a shared vision, right? So that we can all be committed.
Fair. And we stress test it together, right? Yeah. So yeah. Okay, that's good.
And that's us for leadership lessons from the military transferred over to the corporate workplace. Did you guys find this useful? I certainly did.
Yeah, I think not bad. So cannot keep saying military leader got nothing for you. Okay, yeah.
Let us know in the comments what you found the most useful from this episode. And if you have any questions, just leave that in the comment box below. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.